Now, obviously, because all the spending cuts are backloaded, they're past 24 election. In this, all the tax raises that are in this autumn statement are front-loaded. All the spending cuts are backloaded. The obvious question for journalists now going to Labour is, if the economy doesn't improve and if there is a need to continue with these spending cuts post-24, will you continue to do them or will you borrow more? And if you continue to do them, then, you know, how are you economically any different? And if you don't and say you're going to borrow more, can we really trust you with the economy? Has it caught them in that kind of dilemma?
Well, so there is a trap there, and there is always a political trap for oppositions there. And at the moment, Labour hasn't set out its full answer. I mean, that's perfectly clear, but I think it will do over the next 2 years. But I think it's slightly different between 2010 and 2015, where Ed Miliband and Ed Balls had this tortured attempt to say, do we stick to Tory spending plans? Do we just cut a bit less? Do we take on austerity on an ideological and intellectual level? And they never really came up with the answer, and no one really knew what the answer was, including people who work for them. So the public certainly didn't. I think the difference here is that I think Rachel Reeves, and one of the really interesting things with her response today, she actually sort of fronted up to this. She said, the Tories tried to set a trap for us. We're not going to fall into this because of these 3 reasons. Now, Kirsty, that doesn't answer your question as to what the final position will be.
I noticed that.
but I think Rachel, and it's interesting, you know, she was Shadow Chief Secretary during that 2010-15 Parliament, and she will be very aware of those traps and very, I think, deft in dealing with them. But look, where Labour will end up in terms of their fiscal rules, their spending commitments at the next election is a massive challenge for the party. But at the moment, that's why I said at the outset, the sole and main purpose of today was to pin this on the Tories. Make sure they don't get away with this. Those questions will come, don't you worry, especially with the press as it is. They will come. But Rachel, for the time being, I think, has enough capital to keep whacking the Tories for a bit before our spending plans will have to be set out in a bit more detail.